The Lord's Way. When I first heard it, I promise it to you. For a second, I thought it was all over. I was just standing there, right in the middle of the hall, his hand shaking on the top of a folder. The old. And on the other side, there were the people in the suit looked at me as if I was the dirt on the shoe. The place was packed. Cameras are pointed out. The murmur of the crowd. A lot of people are important to you. And to me, they're looking like a mistake. I am the owner of the channel. I used to talk to explain and to guide the people from scratch. But at that moment, my throat closed up in a way I had never experienced. Because I was not there, for example, the face of the channel. I was just there, like a man who was on a fact that is too big to fit back into my life. And the worst part was the realization that the sentence was not an impulse. It was planned. The chair dragging on the Resinho short coming in from the other side of the glass, unintentionally shot down near my feet. It all seemed to be essayed for me to slow down, to make me give up. I have to get out of there, bent over, asking for an excuse to be there, but I'm not there to win a popularity. I went down there to blow up a lie. And this is what I do, no one would expect. I'm not going to continue with the scene right now. Yeah, I know. It looks weird, because it feels like I'm in you, revealing the full story at the beginning, at the height of the conflict, at the time that I was being humiliated. And you might be thinking to yourself, okay, what's up? What happened after that? Cool. Because if I have to tell you what happens next, without understanding what came before, you're not going to feel the impact of just the way that I feel. You're not going to understand why that is. I almost fell for it. I almost gave up, and especially to... Why? In the end, I went out from thence, leaving you with a plenary session in the silence, with a mighty shaking for the inside. So, breathe for me. I'm going to have to tell you from the beginning, but in my own way. And already warning, this story has turned so often that even I, living in Custea Accreditar, is there anything that I didn't tell it to anyone? It has detail in it. I hid it out of fear. And you have a moment near the end I realized that I was dealing with just a politician. I was in a wheel as a whole. Now, before I take you into this story, and I can promise you that you're going to end this video and see everything with new eyes, I want to ask two things from the bottom of my heart. Subscribe to the channel because I will post stories as well. And with the investigation, intrigue, and unexpected twists and turns to reel the whole week. And you won't want to miss out on the next one. And share this video with someone who needs to remember what a humiliation does not define the target, and that there are no truths that will change everything when they come to the surface. Ready to go. Right now, I can't take you with me. I've always been the kind of person who avoids conflict. Maybe you have to be like that as well. The type that believes that if you are speaking with a calm, explain the law and the things that get done. I have always believed in it. I've always thought that the dialogue was good enough. That's good intention. I had even of the space. The world was still going on. Let's talk. And do you know why? My channel was created precisely for this idea. I always spoke to the common people. The people who get home tired at home, you do not understand the language difficult, and that you just want someone to explain the things as if you were sitting at the kitchen table. I took out the issues that caused consternation in law and the rights, red tape, paperwork, and broke all in pieces. It's simple, without a loud scream. No offense, no show. This is how I saw the world. Or at least, it's like in that row. Have you ever noticed how some of the cues that seem to be made to test the patience of a human? For those who do not travel, who does not have a clear information that they make you feel small, by just being there. It was one of those, the ones that give you the will to go even though you know that you need to be. I was just there, standing, looking at everything, wondering, mentally, in a video, how not to be eaten up by the bureaucracy. Maybe you've already experienced it. The feeling of being in a system that was not meant for you. That's when I noticed him standing behind me, a gentleman, and trying to read in a board far, far away, squeezing your eyes, leaning your body forward. In one hand, a paper that is folded so many times that it no longer seemed to be more of the paper, seemed to be an object for survival. You know, no, when something is not just a document, but is a burden. It was a silence that is different. He was not shy. It was taken care of. The care of those who have already learned to talk too much, it can cost you dearly. I turned around and offered to help. He nodded his head, without a smile on his face. without suspicion and difficulty in concentration, just accepted it, as someone who no longer expects much from life, but it will still accept it when someone holds out a hand. I asked him for the name. Mauro's, below, in short, as if the name had also learned not to take up space. But it wasn't the name I was able to move. He was the one that came after it. He looked at the prose side. He noticed who was in the vicinity. He waited for the sound of the cue to swallow up the conversation. And then he said, almost as an exclamation escaped without wanting to, "Man, there are people making money on top of us who don't have anything. So let me ask you one more thing to do, and to think with sincerity. How many times have you heard a phrase like that?" And she felt that there was something much bigger behind it, because I felt it. That was not the tone of the denunciation of the test. Had no angry drama. He was tired. It was someone else holding on to something that is too big alone for too long. I asked him what he was talking about, and he hangs up. Literally. Have you ever seen someone else's hesitation not for the development environment but for a thank you? From the look of it has changed. A hand pressed paper. Your body stiffened. As if he was deciding in seconds, and if you trust in me, was worth the risk. And then he did something that to this day I shiver. He opened up the paper, but that's not all, only a part of it, as if to say, this is the best that I can to show you for a while. It was one of the protocol, a number of dead, on a date, subscribe, thing in the cold. This technique is, with no emotion at all. One of those that, for most people, it doesn't mean anything. At the time I thought, that's exactly what you might think. It's more of a document that was lost in the middle of the system. But by then, he leaned slightly forward and said something that changed everything. It was supposed to be life-changing for a lot of people, and, as might be buried, bury. That one word was ringing in the back of my mind, because when somebody says, they are burying, it is not the strength of the expression. It's a process. It is a method. This is deliberate. I'm new to a lot of things in life. Still the error. Still I am learning. But there's one thing I learned early on. When someone chooses to be silent, usually it is not because they don't have to say. It's because someone is ordered to shut up. He did not tell me anything on the same day. Maybe it's because she couldn't. Maybe it's because I didn't know if I would do it. He only said that there would be a public hearing in the next week or so, and that he needed to talk to. I asked for something that looks like a no-brainer, but it tells us a lot about how people still believe in the system. Why didn't the Lord brings it to a newspaper? To make a decision? Someone great? He smiled. But there was a smile of irony. It was the smile of someone who has already tried it. Because they don't listen to people like me, I reply, looking at the inside. How many times have you felt that way, right? It was at that moment that something turned over inside of me. It was not a moron. It was not a revolt in the explosive. It was the worst. It was an angry silence. For those that don't scream, but you push them. I feel that if I go in that queue, as if nothing had happened, I was going to betray him. I was going to focus on the one that had heard. He felt. He agreed. And it was gone. I did not make a speech. No. And I promised to justice, not the promised display. I only said a single sentence. One of the most dangerous of all. If you go, I'll go with you. And as I said it, I didn't know it. But now you know. Sometimes it's not a threat, that it changes your life. This is a promise with the little, carried on the momentum for sure. And that promise has been to turn right, someone invisible, as someone who is on the system and was going to pass it in the call of pain, up until the day before the hearing, and I was still trying to deceive me. You may have already done this as well. We rationalized to be able to sleep. I kept repeating to myself, it'll just be a moment filled with tension. It's all good. A gentleman speaking. The people. The powerful pretending to listen. Someone is breaking. Embarrassment. And in the end, that's what I wanted to believe it. But the story did not ask for permission to go out of control. The first surprise is not what happened in the house. It happened the night before. It was late at night. The cell phone was lying next to me. I didn't expect that message to any of them. And it was precisely because of this that, when the screen came on my body reacted before my mind. The number is unknown. No picture. No name. Out of context. Just a short sentence. Dry. Direct, too good to be a joke. Don't get the Mauro. You won't regret it. Have you ever felt your heart to err on the rhythm of the thing? He's second in the body, understands the danger before the mind. To formulate any thoughts? It was just like that. I read the message 3 times. In the bedroom, the look you've been to, with butterflies in my stomach. Because it's not burning, was not a coup. He had not the emoji. There was no exaggeration. He was someone who seemed to be, I told him in the moment, without much thought, "Who are you?" The answer came to him quickly too. Fast, like someone who was already waiting for him. For someone who's trying to prevent such a tragedy, that sentence alone would be enough to take your sleep to any of them. But it didn't stop there. Seconds later, another message appeared on the screen. And I swear to you, when I heard this, I had to sit down on the bed. It's not going to leave the whole of this. Now, answer me truthfully. Does any of this sound as an empty threat, or as a warning to anyone who has ever seen the end? Because for me, in that moment, it was clear. This was not someone trying to scare me for the fun of it. It was not a theater. It was a calculation. It was someone else talking about it as if the script was already written. I'm not going to go into all the details that may put people at risk, but you have to understand this. When a prompt comes up that way, without any order, with no plea bargain, no drama, it's because someone else believes it's still not too late for you to back down. And that is exactly what has given me the most to fear. I turned pro, Mauro, at the same time. To even thought twice. Your phone called it at once. Twice. And he answered. In a calm voice, quiet too. As if he had been waiting for that connection. I'll tell you everything. I read the message out loud. I waited for a reaction. Anything at all. But on the other side of the line, there was only a silence fell short. A gasp from the bottom. And then he said something that froze up even more to offer. I knew you'd come. You are able to feel the weight of that line? It was not a surprise to him. It was a confirmation. I asked, almost begging you if he had wanted to give up. If I didn't want to go. If it's not, I was getting too dangerous. And this has been one of the most powerful I've ever heard in my life. I've spent a lot of stuff to stay quiet for a while. I'm not going to lose you again. At that moment, everything changed. Because I don't think that it was not on an individual basis. It was not on the paper. It wasn't about the money. It was about someone who spent his entire life being pushed out. And he decided that he would not be getting any more. So, let me ask you something. Important. And think before you reply. Do you have the courage to continue? Even though he knew that someone else would prefer that you would disappear from history? It is for this reason that I want you are participating in right now, as you watch it, because this question is changing the way in which you are going to see the rest of the video. Have you ever been given a warning in your life? For those who seem to be small in the beginning, but later on you realize that was the first chapter of a much bigger, the account in the comments. I've read them all. And yes, some of these stories that end up turning into a video here on the channel. The next morning, I went on to find that and as soon as I saw him getting closer, I noticed something was different. He'd come to the same folder as the old of all time. One and the same, empty, heavy duty. But this time he wasn't alone. On the other side of the street, and a man leaning on a car and watched him, was looking at the pro's Mauro. Then he looked at me. No disguise too. No rush. As someone who wants to be seen, but it's not identified as such. I felt this strange feeling of being measured, evaluated, recorded. You know, when the air is changing? While the sensed my discomfort. Didn't even need to turn around your face. It just came up a little bit and said, as one who delivers a truth is not too late to turn back. They already know who you are. And in that moment, I did something scary. In the notice, it wasn't just about him. It was over for me. And after that, there was no more like to pretend that this was just an audience. From the moment we walked through the door, my body realized before my mind there was something wrong there. You know, when the environment appears to be normal, but isn't it? When it all works, but in a way that was artificial too. It was not only the most. It was not standard protocol. It was a kind of vigilance behavior. How to get through the lobby, but there are, and the other would be marked as soon as they put the foot inside of it. And you can guess which group I was in. I have tried to keep step firmly, laying a quiet one theater, built in. I'm just a citizen. But the more I acted as the place of birth, most of the details that popped out. A security guard who followed my movement. I turned to the hallway with no flash. An officer who stopped to talk to in the middle of a phrase, and when I did it. A man in a suit and that she's on the phone, and he turned his body just enough to keep me watching him by pretending to entertain them. Have you ever felt it at some time? The feeling that you've entered a place where it's not supposed to be. Even if I have done anything wrong, I felt it. And the most disturbing was looking at Mauro's, because he didn't seem surprised. He walked slowly, posture straight, there's no hurry. As someone who had already gone through major storms, and she knew how to recognize the smell of the next one, there was no fear on his face. He had prepared. So, for some reason, that scared me more than if he were nervous. The hearing has begun. The table is full. The microphone's on the same page. The plenary meeting was crowded, and it's the one sound that is specific for people who don't want to be there, but you want to appear as important. Murmuring, whispering, chairs moving, mobile phones, making noise quietly. There is a noise in the power of things to do. I've looked at the pro is Mauro, and I thought, with a knot in your stomach, they're going to swallow a man. And that's when I saw him. It was not that explicit. It was not aggressive. It was clean, too. They called the other's name before. They passed the people in front of you. They invented settings in the list. They have created a small break anyway, in the time that it was being drained every drop. And while waiting for you, in silence, I saw his hand tighten on the folder from strength to strength. Are not of a nervous disposition, in the decision, as the one who holds the only thing that prevents history from being erased. When they finally called his name, and the atmosphere was already prepared to demoralization, while the chairman of the board, the kind of man who smiled, as one who has not taken the trouble to conceal the contempt. He looked over the top of his glasses and sighed, dry. To be brief, we have a lot of stuff in here. The translation is clear. You're the least important part of the living room, while the team has gone ahead and placed the folder on the counter. The sound of the leather, old, knocking on the wood echoed more loudly than he should have. Or maybe I just felt like it. It started out as a simple sentence, straightforward. No offense, no drama. I came to talk about some money that's not mine, and neither will you. It's not finished. Before the last word, someone laughed. A laugh was too high, forced to rest. With a laugh that it does not seek to mood, searching the hierarchy. And then there's the humiliation. He began to climb. Don't like the blast. As a slow poison. A commentary crisscrossed on the clothes. A sex undercover on the do not understand how it works. For the Lord, this is not the place to play. That someone is let go. No shame. No the Lord's way. Right there, in front of the whole world. As if it were a piece of furniture out of place. Can you imagine listening to this in public? He can feel the impact of being reduced to an inconvenience, just trying to talk to. The phrase I told you there at the beginning, it was spitting up there. Raw, cool, determined, and the most shocking, while they didn't react as they expected it to be. He did not raise his voice, don't defend himself, didn't ask about it. He just breathed, with a full second, deeper, control. And it was at that moment that everything is cleared up for me. It wasn't a live audience, it was in a movie theater, with a stage set up where the roadmap is clear. To decrease, to be tired, cause, humiliation, until the other one to give up or make a mistake. They knew exactly what they were doing, had a speech ready to go, had a stroke or calculated. They had the laughter and tested. I only had one thing they didn't have it, the script that came after it. And as long as they thought they were in control of the scene, and I realized that the game had only just begun. At the height of humiliation, and I knew for sure that Mauro was going to explode. And I would. Maybe you thought it's inevitable. Because that's exactly what they are hoping, that the person loses the line. Raise your voice to be confused with, to stamp such as lopsided. Have you ever realized how the system causes it? Waiting for the error. I was looking at each of the micro-expresso of him with each breath. The whole room seemed to be leaning against the old man. And then just for a second I thought to myself, if he's reacting right now, it's over. But Mauro has made the movement in the most unexpected of them all. He didn't rise to the dial tone, didn't argue, don't defend himself. He said quietly, of course, control. how to choose each word as if it were a chess piece. I only ask you to read your opinion. And the world came to a halt. It was not a quiet, cute, and respectful. It was silent again. There was a silence of one who has been defeated, because the request did not ask for his opinion. He was not asking for a favor. He asked for the procedure, and it is very dangerous. The opinion is good. The document has a number in it. The number you have energy. And in the wake, don't go off with a resinho. The chairman of the board did that expression of class I which has been tested. You look tired, his mouth on crooked, as if he was dealing with someone else's inconvenient to others to take you seriously. There's no need. Now, answer me one thing. When someone says, there is no need in such a hurry, don't seem to be exactly the opposite, while the don't flinch. He did it again. In the same way, the same voice, acting in this way. No, please, read your opinion. It was at this point that I began to see that they were trying to hide it. One advisor, who has been sitting right behind it, turned pale. But there was a pale light. It was empty in the face at a time. She averted his gaze, looked for someone, such as one who seeks to rescue silent. A man is struck in the collar, making her uncomfortable. Another, alderman, began to tap the pen on the table fast. Too much, too nervous too. Have you ever seen this kind of reaction to it before? When no one talks to you, but your body betrays you all? It was as if that one word had triggered an alarm. It is invisible. Look, there, sunk in for me. Mauro was there, insisting their pride. He was not an old man, was stubborn. He was ad-libbing. It was the key to it. The key to a safety deposit box all over the world at table. He would prefer to keep it closed. The president tried to shut down the discussion. It changed the tone. He tried to speed up. This classic attempt to get over and move on. But then, while they has made an even more accurate, without raising the voice and without changing his pace, he said something that seemed to be short, but it cut through the air like the blade. I protocoli. You are logged in. If you don't read it, it should be clear by what it is. It was a blow to the operating room, because, at the time, refusing to be left to procedure, and went on to appear in confession. The crowd murmured. It was not loud. It was the sound of a people who begin to understand that something is wrong here. And that's where you feel the fear, moving from side to side. I don't seem like they were hiding it, so as not to leave a noticeable too. I don't turn on the silent on the exam. They were able to accept. The reading began. And I swear to you, the floor was collapsing, not physically, but emotionally. Each word is read. It seemed to push the air out of the room. Each line took a little bit of arrogance, a little bit of security, and once in a while they thought they were. Have you ever felt the atmosphere change as well? Like, all of a sudden, no one could be more comfortable in their own home. It was there, just there, that I realized that the most important detail of all, the one where I got it from here, the request for Mauro, was the simple way. Because when you're asking for a little, and still, they try to deny it, this is because your carrying is too large to be explained. When the reading is entered on the financial part, I relaxed for a second. Perhaps because of the tiredness, perhaps naive. I thought, this is going to be some of the budget is inflated, then nothing really will change the game. Have you ever noticed how the US is preparing to worse, but it still surprises you? So I came up with the numbers, and it was as if someone had turned off the sound in the world for a moment. It was not a shock right away. It was a delay of half a second for the brain to understand what she heard. And when you got it, the body will react. I'm not going to come up with word spaces. I'm not going to say millions, as if that explained anything. Because of the impact was not only on the size of the value. It was in this context, in the document speaking into the tens of millions. Do not estimate, not as a project, but the value that is linked to a special fund was created. With the purpose is clear, the term is defined, the destination, and the legal obligation of implementation. Oh, and here comes the part that most important thing. It was not an assumption. The role of showing the date, showing timestamps. She showed the signatures are not recognized, line by line. A step-by-step instructions. It was not gossip. It was not the allegation that's empty. It was a trail of documents. The ones who won't disappear when someone changes the tone of your voice. Let me ask a question now. Do you know what happens when a number is spoken out loud in a place that is full of power? The environment has changed. Don't need no one to talk to. Nothing. The body of the case. Who was the laughing? It stopped. Those who were left out in his chair. He sat upright. Those who mocked turned to be respectful in the second. It's almost automatic. It is an instinct of survival. The councilman who had laughed at first just sat there. No flash. As if his face had frozen for a moment. The chairman of the table swallowed, and IV could not print. It was the one in the motion, a short neck that betrayed the nervousness is real. And while the Don said, Don smiled. Don't react. He just stood there. Strong. Watch. And it was in contrast to that, I've got it all. He was not there for revenge. I was not there to humiliate it with anyone. He was here to do something much more dangerous, to force the truth to be. Can you tell the difference? Right now, I want you to pull it out of the room with me, because that's part of it changes completely the way you want to see in power. And I want you to active here, to me. If you're sitting at the plenary session, and let us take a number of days out of those, what would be your immediate reaction? The indignation? Thank you. That will silently do that to you. The account in the comments. Because I am going to tell you what was my reaction to it. It was not out of anger. It was not a revolt. He was scared. The fear is real. The one who does not speed up only with the heart quickens with the thought. Because I did something that I was trying to avoid. This was no administrative error. It was not a mess. It was not lack of skill. It was great stuff. Anything that involves people, too. We used to never be complicated. Some people just don't tend to cope well when the numbers to win the voice. And let me tell you for a fact that no one speaking in a loud voice, when this kind of comes out, and the game changed, the rules are changing. All the smiles to the faces of change, and the danger that it can also change the level. And at that very moment, as the silence took over the room, I was sure of one thing. After that number, nothing, absolutely nothing, would go out from thence. In the same way you came in. Do you think the pump is of the number is? The worse the surprise. It wasn't that. At worst, the surprise came at the break, because after reading this article, and they have declared a pause technique. I remember it as if it were right now, while it was a drink of water I was close to, and all of a sudden, a man came up to me. A man I had never seen before. He did not raise his voice, not threatened explicitly. He just got close enough for me to smell the scent of expensive perfume, and he said in my ear, Canalzinho, it doesn't protect anyone else. I congele. He went on to say, would you like to tell the story, right? Be careful not to flip them. And he went out, as if nothing had happened. I was stuck, the hand to help. And then there was the thought, the more frightening. They're not afraid of Mauro. They have no fear of that. I can show you. And this is why I'm going to be straight up with you right now, because this is not the only part of the script. This is the kind of thing that sets this channel to grow, or if it is to be buried in the silence. If you sign up now, the truth. As more and more people with me, the more difficult it is for any system that is to push this story to the table. And it's not just sign up, it is a presence. You say, I'm right here, I'm reading right now, I'm not that easy to clean up. I know that seems dramatic, but you will have to understand, and even more so when I tell you that which came after it. When the audience returned, the president has tried to take control of it. He began to speak of a how-to in the context of complexity. That way, people who try to bury something words long. It's just that the document does not speak of the Mauros asking for money for it. And this is what happened in the beginning no one was expecting. The fate of the money. Just for people who almost never appear in any place. The people who live on the edge. Some people just don't have the last name world famous. Many people who do not have a lawyer from Suits. The document set out a plan of action, a simple to understand way, even for a beginner to figure something out that everyone in the world has ever seen, but very few experience, free and with dignity. It was allocated to housing, to adapt, to care, to ensure that the right people are not to be treated as a nuisance, such as atrapalo. And then, suddenly, the humiliation, the home won a layer that is hurt the most, because, while the eye was not there for the imagination, He was there for the people who didn't even have the voice to be out there. And that was when I saw a strange thing. Some of the crowd began to move from side to side. A man in the audience, he bowed his head. For a woman, she dried her tears quickly, trying to cover it up. And the city councilman who giggled, he started avoiding looking at Mauro's. You know what that means? That's when the shame she becomes a beast in my chest. I can't take it. As long as they were trying to explain it, something began to happen. Mobile experience. 1, 2, or 3 of them. As an advisor, he went out in a hurry. The other whispered in the ear of someone at the table. And then I realized that the information had been on the floor. It had come out. Because when we got there, the trail. And when you have the trace, we have to check. The confirmation came in like a tidal wave, silent. It was not a rumor. It wasn't ill understood. There was something formal, with a base, stamped with a source. The weather has changed from time to time. The city councilman who debauchó tried to make a joke and no one laughed. The chairman of the board has tried to speed up, and someone asked the question of the order. And Mauro, who had been called the atrapalho, now seemed to be the only adult in a room full of people pretending. And this is where I want to pull you into the conversation one more time, because this is too important to be made. Have you ever seen someone powerful change in the tone, the time that you realized that you had been caught? How did it go? The account in the comments. Because of this, it is a standard of the human race. When the mask falls off, your voice will change. And that's exactly what I see. The voice had changed. The tone, he turned in the industry. And all of a sudden, they started to be dealt with Mauro, such as the Lord with about later on in life. But that about it, only that it was the most absurd. The part of you that no one, not even me, I was ready for it. Now, I return to the scene of the very beginning. I stand up. The folder is at the top of the bench. The phrase, "May the Lord upset," is still continuing. And I'll tell you what happened after that. I haven't told him yet. When the scan is finished, and in the interest started popping up, they tried to make a move. They have tried to delay. They tried to forward. They tried to push it to the committee for a meeting in the future, so we'll see. The old trick of time. If you can't get to turn me down, you have a delay until people forget. Only while the thought of it. And here comes the surprise, the strongest in the entire video. It is not just a document. It was for a second. And this is the second document that was not in the report. Was the trigger. It was a proof of it. For the sake of the terms and the rules, a decision needs to be made. It was not good. It was not the debate. It was a greeting. And when he placed it on the table, I saw something that made me shiver. The chairman of the board was not angry with him. He was filled with fear. The fear of the kind you can't fake it. Because the game had turned into a problem. No shortcuts. No excuses. Without a story. Of the law or legal process applicable there. He made it clear it had no effect. I had a consequence. And then something happened that I will never forget. At the plenum, that he was loud. He was a silence so heavy that you couldn't hear the chair creaking. No one said. No one cried out. Because he was not a victory. It was justice, coming on like a train with no emotion, and no application for a permit. Mauro took the folder back to it, slowly, like one who closes the chapter. And that's when I asked the question that I was holding it from the queue. Who is the Lord? For real. He looked at me and said something that will change everything when you understand. That I'm just the man who kept the papers when they tried to burn it. I was frozen. Because I don't think. He was an old man humiliated. He was a living archive. The guy who, at some point in the past, and has seen some of the dirt, and decided, I'm going to keep it. One day it's going to be good. And while the entire world tried to forget it, he thought. While everyone else was trying to clear it, he maintained. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, yeah, but what about the man that I threaten you? And the message? And it's the risk? I'm not going to romanticize. I'm not going to pretend that it was easy for him. When the hearing was over, I felt that we were being surrounded. I've always felt that something bad could happen to you. And it came to pass. It's like you can't imagine. In the output, while he was approached by an employee to be gentle and said that he needed to confirm the data. I saw it at the time. It was a conversation to separate him from me. I lifted her over the side while the pro side and I said to him, Are you going along with it? The officer of the day, the fake smile, that smile that does not reach the eye. And while that did something that broke me on the inside, he shook my hand and spoke softly to her. If anything happens to you, you already have enough of it. I said, come off it. Nothing will happen, he said to me, looking into my eyes. You will. I've never had a mixture of strong anger and helplessness, but it was when I last turned it happened. And this is the craziest. The same as the advisor that it was dim in the back. In the beginning it appeared in a hurry. She was trembling. And she told me about the pro-president of the board, loud enough for the whole world to hear. They're out there. If you tinker with it, he's going to get worse. It was as if someone had pulled the brakes from the hand of a coward. Suddenly no one came at Mauro's. No one held it. No one has separated. Because it was out of their control. And that's what scares you, the people who live in the silence. When the silence breaks, it doesn't return the same. While the left, slowly, step in at short notice, posture of the firm, and no one laughed. I was looking at it going, though, and I noticed something that I hadn't noticed at the beginning. It was not the face of the poor guy. It was the face of one who has waited his entire life for that moment in time. And I walked away from differently. Because I have learned the one thing that I want you to be a light to your life. There are people who will tell you to call the atrapalho, just because you know for a fact that they want to forget about it. If this video made you with that lump in the throat, if you subscribe to the channel right now, do not miss the next few stories where the truth appears when no one else is waiting. Leave a like because it shows the algorithm of this type of content. You need to reach more people who feel invisible. Shares with someone who has been humiliated. They have been already diminished. Ever heard of what spoiled by be? Because of the times, a history of turn of the key from the inside out. And it says here at the bottom, what is the part of you that you appalled? The phrase, into the microphone? It was the number? Was it a threat? It was the beginning of the document? I want you to know the truth because they don't want anything. And now, look at this. You have a history of showing up on the screen, what is even more intense, and if you click right now, you will understand why some people do all they can to bury it with a name. But you can't bury the truth. Click and watch now.